when we signed our last contracts that they ended with 2025 because we knew that we were coming into a new CBA in 2026. So this year for the WNBA, which is why we're even trying to negotiate even more right now, is because we can't have an expansion draft, we can't have a draft, we can't have anything. We can't have even we can't even have our free agency talks because there's no CBA.
Watch her hands. Watch her face. That's not passion. That's rage, barely contained. Natasha Cloud just went on a social media tirade about the WNBA's ongoing CBA negotiations, and what she said reveals a disconnect so massive it might actually be hurting the players' position at the bargaining table. Because here's what makes this particularly problematic. She's not just venting frustration. She's making claims that are demonstrably false, and she's doing it while representing the players' union in one of the most critical negotiations in league history.
We don't know what the cap is. We have no idea. And every time that we keep coming back to the league, there's a new estimate on the overall value of the league that keeps increasing. So you keep increasing.
So does she think that yelling at the camera and coming across as unhinged, even a little violent, did she think that really helps their cause? We've talked several times in several videos about the lack of
Right there. We haven't gotten an update on the CBA in 8 months. That's the claim. Except it's completely untrue. The WNBA Players Association has issued 7 separate updates in the last 6 weeks alone. Breanna Stewart, Cloud's own teammate on the New York Liberty, went on record 3 days before this rant talking about promising signs and productive counterproposals from the league. So either Cloud isn't reading the updates from her own union, or she's deliberately misrepresenting the situation. Neither option is good. This matters because CBA negotiations are happening right now. Free agency is frozen. The expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries can't proceed. Teams can't negotiate contracts because the salary cap hasn't been established. Every player in the league is a free agent this year by design. They all structured their contracts to expire in 2025 specifically because they knew this CBA negotiation was coming. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Every organization loses money somewhere. Literally look at their expenses for the year. You could literally look at the Brooklyn Nets expenses for the 2026 or 2025 season. You can't tell me they're not losing money. You're talking about teams that are flopping in the NBA? I don't want to hear none of that shit. But I will tell you what.
I don't want to hear actual numbers.
And there it is. I don't want to hear about the league losing money. Every professional league loses money somewhere. That sentence right there encapsulates the entire problem. She's not saying the WNBA doesn't lose money. She's saying she doesn't care. She's admitting that owners operating at a loss is irrelevant to her demands. That's not a negotiating position. That's economic illiteracy presented as righteous indignation. Let's be clear about the actual numbers, because Cloud certainly isn't providing them. The WNBA has never turned a profit in its 27-year history. Not once. The league lost an estimated $10 million in 2023, despite record attendance and the highest television ratings in a decade. In 2024, even with Caitlin Clark driving unprecedented viewership and merchandise sales, financial analysts estimate the league will still operate at a loss.
And we lose all this money, X, Y, and Z. And we were like, girl, first of all, you get a write-off because it's a real estate investment for you. So already money off.
Okay, she's literally, I've told you guys this about her. She's literally telling you she condones the owners losing money. Like, we're good with you guys just losing money as long as we keep getting paid. Man, that couldn't be further from the actual
Now watch this moment. She's talking about the Seattle Storm owner coming to a union meeting and explaining the team's financial losses. Cloud's response? You get a write-off because it's a real estate investment for you. As if tax deductions somehow make losing money profitable. That's not how business works. A tax write-off doesn't turn a $10 million loss into a gain. It just reduces your taxable income slightly. You're still down $10 million. Compare that attitude to how Breanna Stewart has approached these same negotiations. Stewart told ESPN in November that she understands the financial realities, that the players want their fair share, but they also want a sustainable league. She talked about revenue-sharing models that grow player compensation as league revenue increases. That's a negotiating partner. That's someone who understands you can't split profits that don't exist.
But I've told you this. You've got players in this league that, especially somebody like her, because I know her politics, she believes rich people, like you get to a certain level of rich people, you shouldn't have that kind of money anyway, so let's take some away. No, you keep your hands off my money. That's crazy.
They keep playing in our faces. That is like,
Here's where it gets even more problematic. Cloud brings up Unrivaled, the 3-on-3 league that just launched in January 2025, as proof that women's basketball can be profitable. Except Unrivaled isn't profitable. Not even close. The league is burning through venture capital funding at an alarming rate. TNT Sports paid for broadcast rights as part of a broader strategy to compete with ESPN, not because Unrivaled games are drawing significant viewership. The league's president, Alex Bazell, admitted in a February interview that they might need to reevaluate our relationship with the WNBA if costs continue to exceed projections. Using Unrivaled as evidence that women's basketball is undervalued is like pointing to a startup company that's losing investor money and saying, "See, this proves the business model works." No, it proves investors are willing to gamble on future growth. That's not the same thing as profitability.
percentage of the whole pot, and then what's left of the pot, we have to split.
What you talking about, Willis?
What the fuck are we talking about? If you're taking this big ass piece of the pot, then why the fuck are we splitting the other side that is ours? Why are we splitting it? Because this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like. This is what they want to give us to split. So essentially this is what
The hand gestures, the dinner bell analogy, the profanity-laced explanation of revenue splits. This is someone who's supposed to be representing professional athletes in a multi-million-dollar negotiation, and she's presenting her case like a conspiracy theorist with a whiteboard. The optics are catastrophic, and here's what Cloud doesn't seem to understand. Public perception matters in these negotiations. When fans see this kind of behavior, when they hear a player say, "I don't want to hear about your losses to the people funding the league," it erodes support. It makes casual viewers think, why should I care about this league if the players themselves are this unprofessional? Look at the comment sections under this video. Thousands of comments, and the overwhelming majority are saying the same thing: shut the league down. Not from WNBA haters, from people who were fans until they saw this. That's the damage Cloud is doing to her own cause.
What is she trying to make? What are you talking about right now? What kind of split are you talking about?
fucking sense does that make? What is?
I mean, that's so professional. She's got an IQ of like 12. Wow. Can you imagine? And I'm going to be honest. If I'm a player, I'm stopping it right there because my IQ points are just falling out. They're just rolling across the floor right now.
The comparison to NBA teams is particularly telling. Yes, the Brooklyn Nets had a massive payroll in 2024. Yes, they probably operated at a loss when you factor in luxury tax penalties. But the NBA as a whole generates $9 billion in annual revenue. Individual teams can afford to lose money in pursuit of championships because the league's media deals, sponsorships, and merchandise sales create a financial cushion. The WNBA generates approximately $200 million in revenue. It's not a comparable situation. Cloud mentions NFL teams printing money as if that somehow proves the WNBA should too. The NFL's least valuable franchise, the Cincinnati Bengals, is worth $4 billion. The most valuable WNBA franchise is worth approximately $50 million. These aren't comparable businesses operating under different rules. These are entirely different economic ecosystems.
You guys know there was no way that I wasn't making this video. Every time this kind of thing happens, the players' union looks terrible. They look even worse. I looked at some of the comments, and people are just like, "Shut the league down. Just shut it down." And there is so much of that starting to come from fans because they're sick of hearing from you. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
So here's what this really comes down to. Natasha Cloud made a video that was supposed to rally support for the players' position in CBA negotiations. Instead, she demonstrated exactly why these negotiations are so difficult. She made false claims about communication with the league. She dismissed financial realities as irrelevant. She used a failing startup league as evidence of market viability, and she did all of it with the kind of aggressive, unprofessional delivery that makes neutral observers side with ownership. The tragedy here is that WNBA players do have legitimate grievances. The revenue-sharing model should absolutely be reevaluated as the league grows. Players should receive a larger percentage of basketball-related income as media deals increase. The scheduling is brutal, the travel conditions need improvement, and the marketing support has been inadequate for years. These are real issues that deserve serious discussion. But when your spokesperson is someone who openly admits she doesn't want to hear about financial losses, who can't be bothered to read updates from her own union, who thinks tax write-offs are the same as profits, you've already lost the negotiation. Because the other side knows you're not operating in reality. Think about this from the league's perspective. You're sitting across the table from representatives who just watched one of their own players go viral for saying owner losses don't matter. How do you negotiate with that? How do you find common ground with someone who's rejected the basic premise that businesses need to be financially sustainable? The answer is you probably can't, which means these negotiations are going to drag on, free agency is going to stay frozen, and players who could be signing contracts right now are stuck in limbo. All because people like Natasha Cloud can't differentiate between advocating for fair compensation and demanding money that literally doesn't exist. And here's the most frustrating part. Caitlin Clark just gave this league the biggest gift it's ever received. Her rookie season drove a 48% increase in attendance. Regular season games on ESPN averaged 1.4 million viewers, up from 800,000 the previous year. Merchandise sales doubled. Sponsors who'd never considered the WNBA were suddenly calling with offers. Clark created real, measurable economic value. That value should translate into better player compensation. That's how markets work. But instead of capitalizing on this momentum with smart, strategic negotiating, you've got Natasha Cloud on social media screaming about trapezoids and telling owners their financial concerns are irrelevant. It's self-sabotage on a spectacular scale. The players' union needs to decide right now whether Cloud speaks for them or not. Because if this is the face of WNBA player advocacy, if this is the level of economic understanding they're bringing to the negotiating table, then these talks are going nowhere. Ownership will just wait them out. Knowing that every day free agency stays frozen hurts players more than it hurts teams. So where does this leave us? The CBA negotiation that should have been wrapped up by now is still ongoing. Players who should be signing contracts are in limbo. An expansion draft that should have happened in December still hasn't been scheduled. And the public face of player frustration is someone who thinks yelling into a camera about dinner triangles is effective advocacy. The WNBA had momentum. Real, genuine, Caitlin Clark-driven momentum that could have translated into better deals for everyone. But momentum doesn't matter if you squander it with incompetent messaging and economic illiteracy. And that's exactly what Natasha Cloud just did. If you're a WNBA player watching this, ask yourself, is this who you want representing you? Is this the message you want the public to hear? Because right now, the loudest voice in your union is telling the world that you don't care about financial reality. You just want more money, regardless of whether it exists. That's not a winning strategy. That's not even a coherent strategy. That's just noise. So what do you think? Are Cloud's concerns legitimate, even if her delivery is terrible? Or has she done irreparable damage to the player's negotiating position? Because from where I'm sitting, she just handed ownership every bit of ammunition they need to drag these talks out indefinitely. And that doesn't help anyone except the people who'd rather see this league shut down entirely. Let me know in the comments what you think happens next, because this situation is far from over.